Well, hello everybody. My name is Adshot and welcome to our very first webinar of Adshot. I hope that you're as excited as I am. Today we're going to talk about working with influencers on Twitch, YouTube and other streaming platforms. And before we're going to dive into that, I really want to start with something that I didn't really foresee to say or to cover, but something really cool happened yesterday, namely the biggest concert of this year took place. You might say like, okay, how can it take place during COVID? Because there are no physical gatherings and so on. But the biggest concert actually happened inside a game called Fortnite, and it achieved 50 million viewers. 30 million of these viewers went in the game to view the concert, and 3 million followed it live on YouTube or on Twitch. So I'm just going to give a really small example. So basically, we are in the game here, watching the concert. So 15 million people yesterday watched this live simultaneously. This is a rapper named Travis Scott. To be honest, I don't know him, which is a shame according to my colleagues. But again, this shows like how hot Twitch and all these platforms and gaming as such is during COVID. And this is obviously something we'll dive in a little bit deeper. All right, so let me go to the slides. So first off, a little bit about me. My name is Adshot. I'm the co-founder of Adshot. Myself, I'm founded in 1991. I'm 20 years old. I have a digital marketing background. I gave a lot of lessons in university and colleges, and also taught digital marketing to entrepreneurs and so on. So I hope that I'm, let's say, well able or capable to facilitate this webinar. And like it said here, I love to teach, so that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Secondly, a little bit about Adshot, because this obviously this is where I get my expertise from in influencer marketing, and more even in Twitch and YouTube and so on. So Adshot was founded in 2017 as a company. In the whole scene of Twitch, YouTube and so on, and live content, this is quite old actually, because it's really a relatively new scene. What we do, or what we did, is we build a platform that makes it really easy for, on one hand, for brands, and on the other hand, for creators to work together on influencer marketing campaigns. So we have really built a software as such. But of course, if you don't, or some brands don't want to really use the software themselves, and that's why we also offer management and consultancy to just take care of the whole campaign for them. Right now, we assist about 50 brands, whether it's because they're using our platform or whether it is because we're providing consultancy for them and managing their campaigns. And we also are proud to say that we have around 2,200 even right now influencers registered on the platform. Just a quick check, can everybody hear me quite clearly? Because my fan is in the background, just answer in the chat if everything is clear so far. Then I can see like, okay, everything is in order. Okay, sound is good, clear, perfect. Okay, super. And I'm going to continue. So first off, just to cover the webinar itself and the structure of the webinar. First off, an introduction to influencer marketing and to Twitch, YouTube, and all these kind of things. Of course, most people know YouTube, but let's say the live side of YouTube as well. Then we're going to cover matchmaking. So basically, we're going to cover all kind of topics that directly relate to setting up and executing an influencer marketing campaign. So matchmaking is about finding the right influencers and reaching out to them. Then we're going to cover onboarding. Onboarding is more like, okay, you have established the first contact with influencers, and then you're going to talk like, okay, how can we collaborate on an influencer marketing campaign together? And fourthly, we're going to talk about a phase that is really often forgotten for marketeers, and that is the management. So basically, when a campaign is being executed, there are a lot of things you can do as a brand to support the campaign that is running, and this is sometimes overlooked. Then the last real section is assessment. So again, how are you going to determine the impact of your campaigns? How can you determine whether it was valuable for your brand? and so on. So I'm going to cover that as well. And then we have a Q&A. Some people send in some answers they already had in advance. But if you have any questions during this webinar, feel free to just post it in the chat. If I miss it for some reason, I can always ask one of my colleagues to ping it back to me during the Q&A, and then I will definitely pick it up. So first of all, how do we see influencer marketing? Like, influencer marketing, of course, is with have to do with people that have a huge reach and can bring your products and services or your brand just generally to the public, to a larger public. But especially here, the last sentence is really important for me. It's not only about the visibility. It's not only about influencers that create visibility for your brand. It's also about influencers creating engagement and driving conversions for your brand. Only the visibility doesn't pay your bills at the end of the month. So basically, an influencer is well capable of facilitating these three things. So a good influencer marketing campaign should also focus on these three things. All right. Yeah, thank you. Who stole my stilo? Indeed, I was sitting a bit on the left side. I think I corrected myself a bit now. All right. So what kind of influencers are we mainly focusing on? Well, we're mainly focusing, this is PewDiePie, the biggest YouTube influencer, who's also a gaming influencer, let's say, by the way. We're mainly focusing on gaming content creators. Why? Because we see that on YouTube and on Twitch and all these kind of new streaming platforms. Okay, it's good now, good to see, that they are really like the first adopters of these platforms. Like when YouTube started in 2006 and was acquired in 2007 by Google, the first adapters of the platform were gaming creators and video content was really like the mainstream thing right there before it got really mainstream, as in today that there are now 2 billion people using YouTube on a monthly basis. But the same is a thing that we see with Twitch as well and other live streaming platforms. They're relatively younger in age span. They started, or let's say Twitch was founded in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and bought by Amazon in 2014. And until this point, we see that the main content of Twitch and all these other channels like Facebook Gaming and other streaming platforms is gaming. So we see gamers as really the biggest audience or the biggest kind of content chunk on there, gaming content. But also we think that they're really leading the way when it comes to new media formats, and they have done so for many years. So that's why we are, as really innovative marketing guys, let's say, are focusing on them. Like the difference with other influencers is that their main channels are like YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, and Facebook Gaming. It's created about video content or live video content, so streaming content as they call it. And they use like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook as a secondary channel. So they mainly use this channel to promote themselves or their channels, but their main channel is YouTube, Twitch, and so on. All right, so basically, why is this so important right now during COVID? Like I already said, like a crazy thing happened yesterday with an event, but that's just one case, obviously. So when we just look, and I know that the graph is a bit fuzzy, sorry for that. I didn't have a better qualitative image. But when we look at the rise of streaming platforms, YouTube here, by the way, is YouTube Live, not the normal YouTube, just YouTube Live. We see that during the last 2 years, it has been really increasing. And we already see, like for March, that there is a really huge increase compared to some other quarters. And let's say COVID only started like 1 week in March, the last week of March, or maybe a bit before that. So the effect is not really that visible yet. But I think when we're looking for April and so on, that there is really a huge increase in the amount of viewers who are watching all these kind of platforms like Twitch. Twitch is always the biggest one up till now. And I think that's really clear when we look at our own numbers, because there are obviously no numbers for April yet, as it is not finished yet. But when we look at our own influencers and the reach that they achieve, so the amount of viewers that they get in April compared to other months pre-COVID, we see a 85.7% increase. And if we have thousands of influencers, this can be a good prediction of how much, let's say, Twitch and other streaming platforms are going to rise. Okay, you may ask, why is that? Why are people starting to massively consume like Twitch content and other content? Well, basically the answer is twofold. On one hand, of course, people are staying at home now, have more time to game, and many people, while they play games, also watch their favorite creator on the site on Twitch or on YouTube. That's always something. So of course, these numbers are increasing. But basically, COVID has given Twitch and other platforms the best marketing they could have ever dreamed for. Because if you look at the bottom here, all kind of traditional sports got a virtual component, and these famous players, like for example Lukaku is a famous footballer, he's playing NBA, so a basketball game, a virtual basketball game. So basically all these famous people are attracting audiences who normally don't watch Twitch or don't watch gaming content, or often don't, and they pull them in together with their audience, so they pull their audience in on Twitch. So basically you see a massive shift from all the viewership that happens on traditional sports and traditional events to virtual events. So they're let's say the virtual variant of their traditional selves on Twitch, so they're watching it. So basically all these initiatives really increase or account for a drastic increase during COVID on these platforms. So now we covered, okay, why is influencer marketing and why is working with these people who create this kind of video content on YouTube, Twitch, and so on so important. That's one chunk. It's really hot right now, and it's really becoming rapidly mainstream. Like we've seen with YouTube that it became mainstream, Twitch and others are doing an acceleration like that. So history repeats itself, but now for live streaming, I think. All right, so again, this has nothing to do with the fact that it's really hot and booming and trending right now. Influencer marketing and working with these kind of creators, like people playing games and broadcasting themselves on Twitch from their bedroom, like I'm doing right now from my bedroom, are really good assets or good people to work with for your company. Basically, why is that? Because we see that Generation Z and Y already widely adopting live streaming platforms. Like for example, 62% of Gen Zers say they watch YouTube daily. And millennials also say that they prefer YouTube over television. So again, it is really crucial to be where your target audiences is. And they're not watching television, or they don't watch television that often anymore, and especially not in a linear way. So basically, if you know that in 2021, Gen Z and Gen Y will account for 61% of the market, it is really, really crucial that you are where they are finding their entertainment and so on, that you're visible as a brand there. And the best way is to collaborate with people who have a huge voice on these platforms. Also something that people don't often consider, but it's also an all-in-one solution. Like, it's not only, people always say like, okay, reach is important when I'm working with influencers, I want to get as many eyeballs as possible. But there are other parts to it as well, like an image that was created by the influencer over many years is something that you can directly serve on, let's say, as a brand by collaborating with the influencer. You can also, is probably like influencers on these kind of platforms are often very creative, so they can also support you in creating creative content for your brand, or the collaboration can result in some kind of creative live stream piece or a creative video on demand content piece. And of course, they also facilitate, and they not only facilitate but also execute the content, so they also produce it, and this is really important. Let's just compare this to traditional television. If you're a marketeer and you want to run a traditional television ad, you have to work with a strategist, maybe you have to work with a media buyer who buys you ad space on television. You have to work with a I don't know how to say, but like a production company who shoots the video, and a company who does post-production, and so on and so on. So the influencer is safe to say that it's an all-in-one solution. And last but very certainly not least, 66% of Gen Z and Y browse the internet using ad blocking software. So many of the traditional solutions which were fine at the beginning days of the internet, like bannering, but even sometimes social media posts, aren't seen by especially the youngest generation, but we see that adblock is widely adopting amongst even older age brackets. So basically, this is a challenge for marketers to overcome, as you see that traditional advertising, even online, is not working because they simply don't see it anymore. And let's say 99% of the ways that you can collaborate with influencers will always yield adblock free advertising. So that's really a plus, that you are really able to capture a sheltered audience who has fended itself off from ads, and that's why they're also called them, like Gen Zers and stuff, this sheltered generation. Okay, I'm going to give, because of course now we saw an introduction to, let's say, Twitch, why is it important, and so on. Okay, but now it begs the question, how does it look like if I as a brand collaborate with like, for example, a streamer? What does it look like? Sorry, the first one is in Dutch. Very sorry for that, but no worries, I will translate it afterwards, or just say what happened.
Van de vorige aflevering een challenge vinden, maar die gaan we zo meteen even met jullie behandelen. Eerst even wat anders, want ik mag namelijk een tweede giveaway doen namens Proximus. Dat is een Belgische provider. Daar heb ik 2 afleveringen geleden ook een giveaway voor mogen doen. Namelijk 3 PlayStation giftcards van €25. De eerste giveaway waren 3 PlayStation cards. Nu heb ik weer 3 PlayStation cards die ik weg kan geven. Het enige wat jij moet doen is even op de link in de beschrijving drukken en dan even je aanmelden. Je e-mail en je naam is al voldoende. Daarna kan je ze ook nog even volgen op Twitter, zodat je extra kans hebt om te winnen. Dus dat is wel net zo chill natuurlijk als je die PlayStation kaarten wil winnen. En de reden waarom ze dit doen is dat ze allemaal e-sport toernooien.
Alright, so basically what happens here, this is on YouTube. This guy has a normal video of 17 minutes, but in the beginning he does some kind of branded content, a shout out as we call it. And what he basically says here in this case, you have Proximus, who is creating an e-cup for the football league, so a FIFA cup, the football game FIFA, and he's giving visibility to it via a shout out. And what is more, because we talked in the beginning, like influencer marketing should not be only about visibility. He's also driving conversions, or at least engagement, by saying you can win in the giveaway, or you can participate in a giveaway of PlayStation cards by clicking the link down below. And by clicking the link down below, they can perform extra actions to win. For example, they can follow Proximus on Twitter, or visit the website, and so on and so on. The camera, okay. I got to have used to it. Sorry, who stole my Stillo? I'm going to... it's because my chair is sliding, so basically that's why sometimes it bounces, or it corrects itself a bit in the wrong way. So again, these are really like growth hacks for your engagement and even for your sales. So basically it's not only about this guy achieved 50,000 people or views directly on this content, I think, something sort of less like that, but he also achieved a lot of people who participated in the giveaway, and because they wanted to win, they also followed Proximus and so on other channels. So really they also drove engagement, and this is really crucial for influencer marketing. It's not only about the views, it's also about the engagement part. Alright, second example, a bit different setting. It's also on YouTube. It's also a video on demand, as we call it, not a live video. Here is what they did here for a game is they did a review video. They just covered the game, and it's a really long video, 11 minutes or something, when they just cover like the game and what are pros and maybe some suggestions for feedback and so on. And why is this so important nowadays? If people nowadays want to buy a product, especially the younger generations, they're not going to read a whole blog with a lot of sentences that describes a product. No, what are they going to do? They're going to watch a video of an influencer or any other video that just covers the, let's say, the features of the product, and decide based on their suggestions whether it's worthwhile to buy or not. So without further ado.
Hello and welcome to Survivor Legacy. This is a sponsored video on the game Survivor Legacy, which is actually a Facebook game, would you believe it? We're going to play a little bit of this game. I'm going to showcase it to you. If you like the gameplay that you see and you're interested in playing it yourself, you can do so. There's a link in the description. Besides that,
Okay, so basically I'm not going to do it, but to cover the whole video obviously, because that's 11 minutes, but he just goes through the game, shows different aspects, and based on that you can decide, oh yeah, it's a good game, I'm going to buy it. But again, same here, it's really crucial to not only, let's say, account for the views, and the views are not only important, but also the engagement. Again here, click on the link below, and once they click on the link below, they get some extra perk in the game. So again, it's really also about driving conversions, not only views. And again, this is really something that is typically a strong point of these kind of influencers to drive engagement or sales.
ready to slide.
All right, and on the last one, because we haven't covered a live example yet. So here, a Belgian streamer who is talking in English is also promoting something for Proximus, also like the virtual, you have the famous Belgian competition of football, let's say, and the virtual component of it played on FIFA he's promoting it and he's promoting the events around it. Again, here it is live. It's a little less brushed off in the sense that it's not really brushed off is the right word, I think, but it's really credible because people are watching him right now live, or what we're watching him right now live, and we're interacting with his content. So it's really cool to have brand visibility at that point in time.
This logo on top of me, which is the ePro League from Proximus. Alright guys, I still am doing something on the side beside of streaming. So as you can see, there is this logo on top of me, which is the ePro League from Proximus. What is it? I do have to want to talk about.
So basically, again, here he just gives a 2-minute explanation about the concept, and people are really fully captured in their attention for this event because they're watching him live. So again, a really credible way to get your message to the audience. All right, and to make it even a bit more practical, another example here. So what we often see is that people or brands want to work with influencers on Twitch for a longer time, and then we don't really call them influencers, but we call them ambassadors because they're really committed to the brand for a long time, and then they execute certain services over on Twitch for a longer time for the brand. So for example, here you can see an influencer who is unboxing a package of Doritos it was that he received. There's also always a logo of Doritos here, for example, if it was Doritos. And here you can also click on a link where you can see where you can find additional information. So again, it's not only about the visibility, like here it's always on visibility in this example. There's also content that really is activating the viewers to do something. For example, hey, they're unboxing a new flavor maybe, and then you can say, yeah, try this new flavor out right here. By clicking on the link, and maybe there's some kind of reduction attached to it. But basically, again, it's the whole concept. It's permanent visibility, and it's also like driving really conversions. That's my new goal, to getting Doritos to sponsor me. Well, good luck with that, or maybe we can help you with that as well. So, okay, now that we have done the introduction, and I hope you're convinced about the power of influencer marketing on these platforms, now let's go and make it really, really practical and cover the 4 stages that always happen in any influencer marketing campaign. Namely the matchmaking that I already covered, the onboarding, the management, and the assessment. So first off, the matchmaking. It is about finding the right influencers and finding their contact details and reaching out to them. This is what this phase is all about, like the preparation for the actual influencer marketing campaign. All right. So basically, let's say I'm looking for a girl who is a French YouTuber with a healthy lifestyle, let's say. You just can't find them easily when you go to youtube.com. They just don't pop in front of you, and you can easily find these kind of profiles. What can really help you is what we call influencer discovery platforms. I've listed a few here, especially Adshot as well, of course. And this is just a tool that has a lot of influencer profiles on it and a lot of data about these influencers. And there you can use filters to say like, okay, I'm interested in French influencers. I'm interested in these kind of keywords that influencers might cover in their description and so on. So basically here you're going to use these tools to get a good list of actual candidates for your campaign. But of course, that's only step 1, getting that list. Step 2 is also to vet influencers, and vetting influence is really like an influencer marketing term. It's just to determine whether an influencer, because of course he's right in the sense that he's a French influencer, for example, and he has a healthy lifestyle. Okay, these things are covered. But it is also crucial to determine then, okay, but is he a right fit for my brand? And then it comes to other things than just fitting the profile. So one thing I would also like to indicate is some of these profiles use how do we say it, own data, and some use scraped data. What is the difference? Scraped data means that they are just putting crawlers, some kind of bots on YouTube, and they're just trying to get as much information, as much profiles, and get that data out to their own platform. And then you have own data, like Adshot has own data about influencers, which means that influencers register on Adshot, for example, they link their social media channels, and we get the information directly from their YouTube channel, and so on and so on. What is the main difference, especially when we're talking about audience data? If we're talking about audience data, then we're sure that we're basically 100% right, because that data comes directly from YouTube. If you're looking at audience data from scraping websites, this data is not publicly available, so they can't scrape it. So basically this means that they have to estimate it. So estimate based on different cues where viewers of that particular influencer might be located. Again, you can maybe already sense that an estimate is just an estimate. It can be completely skewed as well, and that is something that we sometimes see, that it is not really that accurate. And again, this is already an important thing to notice, but again, other things are ratios. Look at ratios of a channel. If you have 10 channels that are equally fit your profile, let's say, and are really their audience is really like in line with your own target audience, but then it comes down to ratios. What is the sub view ratio? What does it mean? For example, if somebody has 1 million subscribers, it doesn't mean that they have a lot of video views. You also have to consider if somebody has 1 million followers, they also need to have a huge amount of views on each video. Otherwise, the followers don't really add much to the value of their videos or the value of their channel in general. So then we basically call it a dead channel, or maybe they got botted, or they botted their channel and increased these numbers in an artificial way. Engagement rates, like how many likes or dislikes do they get on their video, how many comments do they get on their video. Videos with a lot of comments, channels with a lot of comments is obviously better than a channel with few comments, because it means that their content is driving engagement. And while you're at it, and let's say you have constructed a final list of 5 influencers, but you don't have the budget, or you don't want to work with all of them, and you only want to select 2, before you work with any influencer or reach out to any influencer, it's really crucial, and I can't stress this enough. It's really crucial that you at least view their video history, and really go to their videos and view their videos, and just look at a few thumbnails. By the way, Twitch is working on their bots because they finally deleted mine a lot of time. Okay, yeah, good indeed. Yeah, Who Stole My Stillo is one of the streamers, and indeed a lot of Belgian streamers at least got view botted, which means that their followers were artificially increased, which is always a risk, but they didn't do it themselves. That being said, sorry for the weird swap. But it's also, what I was saying is that it's really crucial to watch their videos, because maybe he has worked with a competitor in the past. Yeah, is it then a good fit for your brand? Maybe, maybe not. And also, just by looking at one video of an influencer, you can get the best grasp of what the influencer is all about. Data can only say so much. Video content can explain the other part. All right. By the way, if you have any kind of, I'm really looking at the chat sometimes, so if you have any questions in the meantime, always be sure to just type them in there, and I'll pick them up right away or after the session. So reaching out, okay, you have considered a few influencers, you have a final pick of 5 influencers that you want to work with or might want to work with. How are you going to reach them? Because it's not always easy to find their contact details, especially if you take into consideration that emails are not really like the most relevant metric, not the most relevant metric, the most relevant channel to reach out to these influencers, because they are Gen Zers and Gen Yers, and we often see that they don't use email as much as other generations. And again, it's also not easy to find their emails. For example, here in this example of YouTube, you can request their emails of a channel by going to their About section. But this is also a bit killed by YouTube, because you can only request 5 a day. So it's not really an easy method anymore to acquire a lot of email addresses. So basically what you have to do is you have to go to Discord, for example, many of these channels have their own Discord. So this is really an easy way to get directly in touch with them. Just go to their Discord. It will always, they often have links of their Discord in their bios on YouTube and so on. So you can just go to there. And Discord, if for the people that don't know it, it's basically Slack, the business thing, but it's used by gamers. Again, they're often the first adopters, and also these kind of content creators. So they really manage their communities on these kind of messaging apps, and especially on Discord. Or you can also reach out to social media by sending in direct PMs on Facebook, on Twitter, and so on. And this really improves the odds that you will that your offer gets seen by the influencer. Again, also public emails often get really crowded sometimes because a lot of people are reaching out to that influencer for different reasons. So what we typically see is that an influencer has a public email address, let's say, and then one email address where he really does his business stuff with. Also, and these are the two things I'm now going to cover, are really basic marketing things, but we see for some reason that they get forgotten sometimes. So talk about them first, yourself second. Don't make it feel if you're reaching out to them. It's also another good thing for email marketing in general, but make them feel like you're really writing a personal message to them. And I would actually advise really to write a personal message to them. It's better to really have vetted, and like I said, vetted means weighted different influencer options, and really put your time and efforts in really doing a good reach out to 5 of them than to a general, let's say a general email to 50 of them. And that's again, like, then you make them feel like, okay, we from our side as brand think there is a great connection between us two. It's always easier to start negotiations, obviously. And then end with a call to action. So again, something that's really a marketing best practice, let's say. So what is your ask and what is their gain? Always say like, okay, great, there is a great fit between your channel and our company values, for example, or a product. And then of course ask, what can you do for me? Can you create a video? Can you review it on Instagram or whatever? Always close with an ask. And also say what they will gain. If you already have a price in mind, well, that's fine, and you can already say it, but you can also think beyond money, because especially if you have a brand with huge social media following, you can think of these kind of influencers as their own little brands. It's always important for them to grow their channels and to do marketing for their channels. So if you can give them visibility on your own social media and it has a huge reach, that might be also something that makes it worthwhile for the influencer to collaborate with you. So always take into consideration extra things. How would you do this? Discord too? Most set their messaging to private, and it's most likely a bad idea to hop in a public Discord. Yeah, okay, well, thank you for that question. I'm really going to cover it as we just discussed Discord. So indeed, if you go to a channel, like, I think once you are in a server, we see typically, or in my experience, I see typically that if you go to the server of the influencer where all the chat is happening from the influencer, like the Slack channel, but it's like the Slack server, sorry, it's a Discord server, and I see a lot that there the influencer his channel is open so that you can reach out to them. And if not, if it's really a big influencer and for some reason he has put it on private that you can't indeed send messages, typically they have moderators in their like we have moderators here in our chat. They also have moderators or community managers even to manage their huge community, so that you see how big things can get, and you can reach out to them with your question. They are mainly the gatekeeper. So that, I think, is the answer to your question already. And the last one I want to say is consider influencer relationship management tools. Why? It's not to self-advertise, but also if you are mailing some people, if you're sending some direct messages on Twitter, if you're in some Discords and you keep continuing the conversation, all these different medias, it can become quite a jungle for yourself to really keep track of all conversations that you're having with influencers. And influencer relationship management tools typically have some kind of built-in messaging system or communication system where you can at least talk business in a business environment, let's say. All right, second part, onboarding. So you have reached out to the influencer, you have established the first conversation, and then you're really going to talk business, really going to, okay, we're both interested, how can we make this work? That's basically this kind of step. So what can people, influencers and brands obviously, what can they negotiate on? The main one is the compensation. Okay, what will the influencer receive for his services? Some things around this. So exclusivity and live viewership increases the costs. So if you want to be exclusive on a channel for 5 months on Twitch, for example, well, typically if that means that he can't work with other brands anymore because you're craving or asking exclusivity, then you need to be compensated, because of course if you have to deny other let's say collaboration offers, then he will lose money. So that needs to be compensated in a way, of course. And live views are always a bit more expensive CPM wise. I think as we're marketers, everybody knows what CPM is. So live views are CPM wise a bit more expensive than normal video views on YouTube, because it's really live, it's really impactful. That's just how it is. And then price metrics. So what can you determine the price of the influencer of like followers, how much views they are getting per video, how much clicks they are getting, how much sales they are generating. And then you can determine, do I want to pay them estimate based or do I want to pay them result based? And this is really important actually, because if you want to pay them estimate based, then you're already giving them sometimes something in advance. And in the beginning, as a marketer would say, no, I'm only going to pay them result based. I'm only going to pay for the views I've gotten or the clicks that I've done. But when we are considering what I said earlier during this webinar, that they are doing a lot of things for you, not only getting views, but also lending their image, creating content for you, I think it's only fair that they already have a basic remuneration for all the services that they have done, regardless of the views. How we do it is we look at the average views of an influencer, how we determine price, I'm willing to say, is we look at the average views for the last 30 videos, for example. We attach a CPM to that, and because we know if he achieved that many views on the last 30 videos, the odds are quite high that he will achieve like a similar amount on the branded video piece. So again, that's why that's how we do it. So we basically do an estimate based, but we do it on really good data. Result based, or a combination, let's say, can also stem from, for example, I'm going to pay for the video and I'm going to pay extra for each sale that you generated with your unique link. These are also things that we typically see. Then you have the dedicated, or you can talk about services. Are you going to make a dedicated video as an influencer for a brand? Or are you going to do a shout out, as we saw, like we saw both examples? We had a dedicated video, a whole video about that game that we discussed or showed as an example. And also an integrated that did just a shout out in this normal video. Both have their own merits. Okay, how many videos are you going to create, for example? Like I said, there are also other possibilities than videos, overlays, which we saw for the Doritos example, bannering, channel visibility, and so on. Then discuss the duration. Is it a one-term deal, or is it really something for the longer term? Are you willing to really work for a longer term together? Then again, it's really important if you go for a longer term collaboration that you take into account any kind of cancellation terms. How can we both get out of the contract if it's not suitable? Or secondly, also quite important, if it goes well, how can we automatically prolong this contract? All right, so basically you already felt this coming maybe, but it's really important, and we cannot recommend it enough, to have at least some kind of contract, or estimate at least, invest at least once in putting together a decent contract when you're willing or wanting to work with influencers. And what should this contract consist of? It should consist of an IP clause, like, do you own the content afterwards? If an influencer does a video about your product, can you reuse it? Can you edit it? Can you share it? These are all things related to intellectual property or IP. So it should definitely, your contract should definitely take this out of the gray area and make it really clear. Again, this is already covered, like long-term collaborations, are there termination clauses, things to automatically prolong the contract, and so on. Confidentiality clauses. Especially this is funny because sometimes also people forget to do this in the beginning. If you're going to give sneak peeks or previews or early information to influencers, make sure they sign that you have a contract where they can't disclose this information. It's just general knowledge or best practice for every kind of information you're sharing about your organization to other people. Don't forget to do that. You do an NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement. Also do this with influencers, obviously. And a compensation clause can go from, okay, are you going to remunerate the influencer? Is it a fixed fee? Is it something that can be variable based on sales? And also what can happen if something might go wrong. It's always better to just have that cleared out in advance. All right. So basically, before then, the last step of this of the negotiation phase is you have come to terms, and then you're going to write, let's say, an influencer briefing, which covers or which consists of a script. A script is something that you can say like, okay, the video should be. These are like guidelines how the video should look like. And again, guidelines might be the right word. A script is not really the right word, because script is letter by letter explaining how a video should be. And that's not something that I would personally recommend when working with influencers. I would make it clear what you want, but not really like setting everything in stone too much, because an influencer is the pro in making video content. He knows his audience. He's the creative guy. Let him do his thing as well. So set the lines, but don't set them too narrow. Then include any previous projects if you have them. If you have collaborated with influencers in the past, make sure to just include them, and it can be a good example for the influencer to or give them ideas on how they can deal with it. And also be clear on duration or length or revision policy, also quite important. You might say create a short video about this or a short shout out, and you expect a short to be 5 minutes, a short shout out, and he expects it to be 20 seconds. Again, make sure you're on the same page. Always super important. And revision policy only counts when it's not live. So if, for example, for a YouTube video, does he has to ask your permission and send the video in private before he uploads it to his audience? That's also something to discuss. Materials, I'm just going to go over this quite quickly. Just consider if you have to deliver certain keys of a product for a digital product, or you have to ship your product, especially internationally. Yeah, this takes a bit of time to calculate it into your campaign duration. Include a media kit if you have it. And of course, like I said, it's influencer marketing is not only about views, it's also about conversions and so on. If you want to know how many conversions you have driven, you have to work with tracking links or unique discount codes that yield you data to assess the campaign later on, which we'll cover in a second. And then disclosure, it's also always a hot topic in influencer marketing as well. You should just be the best practice, let's say. Just don't make it misleading. Just make sure that the influencer clearly discloses that there is some kind of paid collaboration, which is nothing wrong with it actually. Because often the viewers are quite happy that a creator gets sponsored, because then they know that they are earning money and can improve their content and their channel even more. So that's always a positive rather than a negative thing, in my opinion, especially for these kind of influencers. And also use the hashtag, for example, your product or your brand, and then partner after it. This was approved by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission of America, who basically sets out a lot of guidelines for influencer marketing. So I think it's really cool if you have like a video that it has a hashtag, let's say Adidas partner. I think that's just cool extra advertising for your brand. All right. So the management part. So, okay, this is really a crucial part, and this often tends to be forgotten by marketeers, and I understand why. You have found the right influencers, you have negotiated with them, you have maybe got some counseling and have jotted up a contract which got signed, and you're like, now I'm going to wait and see the results come in, see the content come in. But basically then you're missing out on a huge important step, namely during the campaign execution. So again, when a campaign is being executed, for example on YouTube, and there's also some kind of social media coverage, what is typically important, or what we see that often gets forgotten, is that you need to follow as a brand your own influencer, or have some kind of connection with them, that you follow them on their Twitter and so on, and engage with them. Okay, I know sometimes a Facebook page can follow another Facebook page, but there are other mediums where it's possible. If you can't follow them, at least interact with your own influencers. If you have a paid relationship or a collaboration that expands over multiple months, make sure to frequently interact with the content of the influencer. That way you give them visibility, and you just like reinforce the image that you're supporting this creator and working together with him, which, like I said, is a positive thing. And a pitfall is that I suggest, if, let's say, what is typical when we see like an influencer create a really cool video about your brand, don't comment on it too much yourself as a marketeer or as a brand, because that really it's a bit too much in your face. Maybe let's really let the influencer talk about your product in that video and maybe reply to the comments, and there we would just the relationship and the promotion has already been done, but don't make it too in your face for the viewers. Maybe that's just a general tip. All right, and another really important one is how to reuse content. And this is something that often gets forgotten. It's not only about the reach of an influencer, it's also about the content itself. The content is a really, really, really valuable asset to have. But again, like I covered in the contract, make sure about the IP, that there are no, let's say, gray areas there. What you can do with influencer content is you can place these videos, if it's a video, even a live stream, you can put them on as a testimonial on your own website. It's nothing more credible than an influencer who is supporting your brand through a video, so on. Testimonials are always powerful. A testimonial of an influencer who might even be considered an expert, or a guy whose opinion or a girl whose opinion is well heard over the internet, is always a strong one to put on your strong testimonial, obviously, to put on your website. If you have a web shop, why make a video that describes your product and make it yourself? If you already have influencers to talk about your product, why don't you just put these videos on your product page? And I think it's really persuasive to drive people to actually buy the product. And then the last one is, as you can also see, is that we also do this ourselves sometimes. If there is a lot of content or video content created, maybe by different influencers for a brand, then it's really a good idea to also, let's say, rework that content a bit, post-production, how do you say it, like compose a video out of these materials. I think that's the best way to say it, and create like some kind of ad-worthy video. For example, a short video made out of all this content that you can show on YouTube. I can keep on explaining it, but I also have an example. Again, it's in Dutch, but just to make it really clear.
Yo, Royalistic hier en ik speel de mobiele app Flick Arena, een strategisch spel waarin je het online tegen elkaar opneemt. En als je wint, dan kom je steeds hoger door de leagues heen. En dat is belangrijk ook, want in-game heb je een event waarin je het wint.
Alright, so basically this is a really short part of that content, or it's maybe got recorded separately, but this kind of content you can use, for example, on YouTube advertising, and then you have the best of both worlds in the sense that you can promote it and use your advertising budget on really good targeting, and you have really credible content to persuade the people that you're reaching via these paid promotions. All right, and then the last part, we're almost through. I see that I went a bit over the time that I foreseen for the webinar part itself before the Q&A. I still hope you will stick around for the Q&A, but because I think there are some interesting questions in there. Again, feel free to ask me some questions in the chat as well. So the last part is, of course, how do you determine the campaign value? Great content got created, you have found amazing influencers to work with, but of course, at the end of the day, it's about the metrics, right? It's about, first off, did the videos perform well in the sense that they got a lot of views? Did they reach the right audiences? Did the right audiences view it? And so on and so on. I'm not going to cover this too much in depth. Just know that, let's say, there are scraping platforms, and these scraping platforms can give you data, for example, about a certain period. If you know that you just finished a longer term collaboration for 3 months with an influencer, then you can see his performance over the last 3 months, and then indeed you can know if you have a lot of visibility on his channel. You can use these metrics to gather these metrics for your let's say campaign dashboard or your campaign report. But typically it's best to again work with Adshot or other influencer relationship management platforms. Why? Because of course you're creating a campaign on Adshot, you're working with influencers who have their data also on Adshot. So basically you don't have to do anything or collect anything anymore, because you already have a dashboard at the end of your campaign that lists like the total metrics of your campaign, the total views and so on, maybe the audience data, and also a breakdown per influencer, because all that data was gathered centrally, namely in the IRM itself. So that's something to consider. It's like I said, it's not always super easy to get a lot of data and it takes a lot of time if you have to go, for example, to YouTube to get information about each branded video that was created. Then you will be searching a long time for each video, and on Twitch it's not even possible. You can't see statistics of a previous stream on Twitch itself, as far as I know. So like I said, it can be quite a hassle. Of course, it's not only about the performance data. Last time that I'm going to go and refer to the introduction and to the, let's say, it's also about engagement and sales, because of course views don't pay your bills. So also consider the impact. For example, how can you do this? If you have a unique code that you have given the influencer during its campaign, then you can see how many times that code was used, or if you have a unique link, how many times it was clicked and how many sales were generated. If you don't have these kind of data, then you can also like try to correlate different data. For example, you know that an influencer uploaded a video on the 16th of March and you saw a huge increase in sales or in traffic on your website, and you might assume and safely assume that he had some impact on your sales and that it was a good campaign. What we at Adshot also do is, for example, we also more engagement wise, we see how many followers were generated for example Proximus during a campaign, how many Twitter followers they acquired, and so on and so on. And for example, if that's important, how many hashtags were used of a certain tweet and in a certain tweet, and so on. So okay, we're through the webinar itself, let's say, and there are already received 3 questions. But again, feel free to answer some or pose some other questions as well. So question 1, we have worked with influencers, I think influencers on Instagram and Facebook. What is the main difference with working with YouTubers and Twitchers? Well, one slight remark already, it's not Twitchers. Every kind of influencer on a live streaming platform are called streamers. That's how they name them. Like the biggest difference, I already touched upon it a bit, not directly maybe, but of course Instagram and Facebook are centered about post content, images and text mostly, and YouTube and Twitch is centered around video content. That's one really important thing. But I think also, and this might be not easily understood by or easily accepted by different marketeers, let's say, but I think YouTubers and streamers are way more impactful than Instagram influencers, for example. And why is that? Because of the credibility and because of typically how each influencer earns money. An Instagram, let's say fashion influencer, basically she gets 100% of her income. She gets it off sponsorships, branded deals, and so on. So basically, you know that she will do a lot of advertising. For YouTubers and streamers, it's a whole different ball game, because basically what we see is that only 30% of the income each month of an influencer on these platforms is from brands and collaborations. The other 70% comes either from advertising on YouTube and Twitch, so the cuts that YouTube gives to the influencers directly, but that's only a moderate percentage. But a huge chunk come from their audience directly. People can subscribe on Twitch channel just like they can on Netflix, which goes a chunk goes directly to the influencer. They do donations and stuff. So basically, there is a huge support from the community, because they're really community focused, these creators, from their community to really keep them going and helping them to improve their channel and take that to new heights. That's really important to notice, so you know that typically an influencer is more credible as a YouTuber, because he will always consider, if I work with this brand, how will my audience react to it, and so on. So basically, you know that influencers will only do it if they really believe that there is some value in this collaboration for the audience. Otherwise, they will might see negative impact on the longer term, because they know they might be seen as some kind of money grabber who takes a quick dollar and just doesn't put right, let's say, deals into the eyes of their viewers. So basically, that's a huge difference. So again, the credibility, the authenticity is more important and way more present with YouTubers and streamers. All right. So question 2, what is a normal price range for an influencer campaign? difficult to say because it depends on really a lot of different aspects actually. Depends on the service. Is it a YouTube video? Is it a Twitch stream? Is it exclusive? Is it not exclusive? Is it a large influencer? Like there are a lot of metrics when it comes to this, but always consider, for example, if an influencer earns $1,000 a month, for example, with as a side job by being a YouTube creator, for example, well, then you don't have to pay him 10,000 euros for one video. So we really try to make sure that you have that let's say what you're giving him is proportional to his income or income from other sources. And again, what we have at Adshot, I think it's quite unique, but we have an algorithm because, of course, all this influencer marketing on this platform is quite new, so prices really range a lot, and there is not really a clear pricing point. So we have an algorithm that constantly improves itself and tries to really determine the right pricing, and it depends, of course, on the service, the size, the performance, and so on. So you can always check on Adshot for if you have an influencer who might not even be on Adshot. You can search a similar influencer on Adshot with similar performance and see how much you have to pay that influencer on Adshot, and you already know that's a good indication to work with an influencer that you found using any other tool. All right, I see a question, but I'm first going to tackle question 3, if that's okay. So how can I be sure that influencers will actually do what they're supposed to do for my campaign? I don't want to pay for a campaign and not get my money's worth. Well, basically, again, I think this is the easiest one. This is about contracting. If you work with a contract, it's made clear and it's clearly outlined what the payment flows are, what the required services are, and so on. That's maybe, and also the easiest one is just pay afterwards, right? The influencer, if he does his content and you just sign a contract and you have signed a contract that you will pay within X days after you created the content and it got approved by you guys or by the company, well, then there is no issue, obviously. So I think this question is quite easy to answer, like I did. Okay, I saw a question. If I work with gaming influencers, where do I attract the attention from my audiences to go to YouTube or stream? So if I'm getting this right, you want to work with gaming influencers to attract, for example, if you're a brand and you have or another influencer and you have a YouTube channel, how can you work with influencers to grow your own channel, right? That's a really good question, actually. I think, okay, good. That's indeed, just to make sure that I understood everything correctly. Well, basically, what we typically see, or what we also do, is we host, for example, an influencer hosts a giveaway, and one of the entries where he can, or one of the things he can do to get extra odds or chances to win that giveaway it's a tool we use. So it's all automated. I'll show it afterwards. So if somebody is interested, you can always reach out to me and I'll showcase it, where you can say, like, if somebody follows my YouTube channel or visits my YouTube channel, then he will increase his odds. So basically, influencer A on YouTube does a giveaway, and the viewers of that content can participate in the giveaway. And one of the actions they can do to improve their odds is to follow or visit YouTube channel B. So that way, there is a lot of, let's say, traffic redirection from one influencer, from one channel on YouTube, for example, to another. Does that answer your question a bit, Paradise, or Paradise? Paradise, I think it's pronounced. All right, super. Well, I'm just going to wait 1 more minute. We're basically perfect on time. From Anonymous, what are the demographics of stream viewers in comparison to other social media channels? All right. Well, basically, they're younger. I think Facebook is more mainstream. YouTube, let's say the video on demand part, is more mainstream. So I think typically on Twitch, the largest population are Generation Z and millennials. And I think Facebook and we see even that Gen Zers and such are moving away from the traditional Facebook, not the Facebook gaming part, but the traditional Facebook part. They're moving away from it. I think basically because, and that means that there are older generations really being more active there, and younger generations are now switching to these live streaming platforms like Twitch, and have already done so for a few years. So I think that's one, and I know for a fact that Twitch also stated that their audiences have a higher online income spend, so they're basically upper class more or less, like let's say that's like the biggest bracket of Twitch viewers for some reason. That's what I remember from their disclosure. So I would say young, and of course mostly male, because it's about gamers. Girls are also starting to pick up on games rapidly, but still it's still a bit more a men's world, let's say. So I would say male, let's say stream platforms, male, gaming enthusiastic, have a higher income spend or higher income to spend, and are typically Gen Z or Gen Yers. Okay, another question. What are the most popular gaming channels for Twitch? Well, basically, what I saw, I think the most popular social channels, I think Facebook will, Twitter is still, like, in my opinion, the number one, because Twitter, I think Twitter would maybe already not have, would have ceased to exist if it wasn't for gaming or for gamers being actively there. So I think Twitter is still the main one. But Facebook is really doing a huge push with Facebook Gaming and the apps around gaming. So I think it's always also becoming more gaming focused. But of course, there it's a bit of a problem between your real profile. It's difficult on Facebook to have like two separate profiles. You can have an influencer page or a page for your channel. That might be an option. But still, I think if they really can fix it, that you can have your own, let's say, profile as a streamer quite easily, which they are doing, I think, then I think I'll also put your eggs in the basket of Facebook. But for now, I think Twitter is still like the main one. Twitter has to be the lowest amount of users too. Indeed, I understand what you're saying as like the lowest amount of users, but let's just say like the people who are now really active on like Twitch and YouTube Live and all these kind of things, I think they are still, a huge chunk of them is really still most active in support of that viewing activity on these stream platforms on Twitter. But again, I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the numbers. What I saw yesterday while doing some research is I saw that Facebook Gaming, they also just released an app. Their viewership of these streamers has increased 354% over the last few weeks, or 45%, not too sure. So tripled over the last few weeks. So it's really rapidly growing, which is obvious. If you have let's say a platform that hosts 2 billion users, you can already use their user base to get a lot of visibility for your channels as well. Question, why can't I donate to the stream? Okay, thank you, Pirke. That's really kind of you. Yeah, because we'd love to do this for free. Let's say that's my final answer to that one. All right, so if there are no more questions, I think we only went 8 minutes over time. I foresaw an hour. I hope that it was entertaining enough to have kept you, let's say, your attention here and focused on the stream. This was obviously our first stream. We're planning to do some more in the future. I think we will try to do it a 2-weekly one or make it a 2-weekly session on Friday, where we will always cover one more in-depth topic, I think. So that's really something that we're planning on. And this was really like the main, let's say, an introduction session that covered a lot of things. That's why it also went a bit over time, I think, because we really tried to cover the whole story of influencer marketing from beginning to ending. But like I said, I hope it was entertaining enough, and we'll definitely keep you posted for any upcoming webinars through the same channels as we did right now. And for those of you who have registered on Eventbrite, we will also make available the slides afterwards, and we'll also send a video on demand session. So basically, we will pull a video out of this webinar and send it over to you guys. So thank you all for watching. Like I said, I hope it was entertaining. I certainly enjoyed talking for an hour straight about influencer marketing. Can do this for 10 hours straight. And like I said, I hope it was entertaining, and have a great weekend in advance, and goodbye. Talk to you later. Bye.